A lot of people are not aware of that. And the worst thing is that when they realize the disaster, it's already too late. They realize that after their kids are already gone, 17 or 18 years old. The honest ones of them, when they get gone, sometimes let their parents know. And their parents call me and say, Sheikh, please come help me out. My son became an atheist, or my daughter didn't come back home last night, and so on and so forth. Huge disaster. Worst case scenario, and I say this to myself as a father and to everyone else. We need to realize not only that they are the treasure of our own hearts, not only they are the most valuable thing that we had and we're responsible for, but every minute, every hour of the day, we get weaker, we get older, they get more powerful. We become their past, and they become our future. How many times, and this happens to Muslim parents, and it happens all over the place around us, that one gets, subhanAllah, much older, gets sick, and no one cares for them. No one even is there to admit them to a hospital. No one to care for them if they're alive or dead of their well-being, because they got a job somewhere in another state, and you know what, they can take days off, and they think that the maximum they should do, because they never heard about doing well by parents, and that they can make a phone call. Sometimes it could be every single day, and sometimes it's once a week, once a month, and sometimes, as we see around us, that they actually pass away in their own household and people do not know, sometimes for months. If you think that this is a danger that happens on another planet and that could not happen in America, and specifically you're absolutely immune from it, you are dreaming. As bad that is, the overwhelming, inshallah, the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the Muslims, I know Muslims that they took their parents for 10 years, for 15 years, for 20 years, living with them. Very powerful kid, very high income, highly regarded professionals that actually worked like slaves, like servants for their parents till their parents passed away. And their parents were the kings of their household. Very powerful people that they would make men shake in their corporate America or their for employees for the business that they have. And you know what? They work like servants to their parents. How many times? And we have it all. And I know people personally that their parents passed away, and in every rak'ah, in every sujood that they make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they make the dua, رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Oh Allah, I supplicate to you, have mercy upon them, the same way they were merciful to me, raising me, protecting me, caring for me when I was young. It happens all over the place. Even better, when we pass away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you die, there's no way back. Your book of deed is your book of deed. No righteous deed can ever be added by you into your book of deed except your righteous kids. وَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ. وَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ, كُلَّ مَوْلُودٍ وَلَدٌ, could be a boy, it could be a girl. That, subhanAllah, supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah have mercy, forgive, put my parents into Jannah. And that dua, each time they make, is added to your book of good deeds. And that dua can make the difference sometimes between one getting into hellfire, God forbid, and getting into Jannah. The other two things that would add righteous deed into your book is that you be a scholar like Imam Nawawi or Imam Bukhari, that we benefit from the knowledge today. Or you're so wealthy, they will put money in a continuous charity that, subhanAllah, for days and years and decades would be, people benefit from it, so inshallah will be added to your book deed. So unless you have tremendous amount of money or tremendous amount of knowledge, a righteous deed, a righteous supplication from a son in your name, that would add to your book of deeds. What kind of parent, and this is the question, you want to wind up being? What kind of parent do you want to wind up being? As difficult and as dangerous and as devastating the issue of non-obedient kids and kids who do not even know how to be righteous. This is the problem. We didn't teach some of our kids how to be righteous to begin with, so they can pray, so they can raise their hand with a supplication, so it be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The good news, as I said, is that it's up to you and it's so easy. And the younger your children, and the more you apply what we were about to say, makes it so easier, inshallah, and make it almost an effortless situation for your kids to be the best that they can be for themselves and for you. And the more you wait, and the more you think, you know what, I would pay more focus on the business or the money and so on and so forth, and the older they get, carrying ideas, learning things from other people, not from you, not learning their deen, not learning the language of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Quran and the hadith, it becomes more difficult. And subhanAllah becomes heavier, and it takes more time, and it takes more effort and confrontation. It is all up to you. But we have the solution, inshaAllah, with the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that would help us all, inshaAllah, raise our kids for their own, to be the best human being and the best Muslims for their own, on top of the fact that we'll be the righteous kids that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us in the supplication. You look at them and be khurrat aynul lak. They would, subhanAllah, fill you with pride and fill you with joy and happiness just looking at them. The number one most important thing that determines the outcome of the character of your children is nothing but the environment. Nothing but the environment. From Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, في حديث أبي هريرة, it's a Hasan hadith, مرفوعا, المرء على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. A human being has the manners, has the religion of his best friend. So be careful who do you befriend. So when I put my kid in a public school, and he sits next to a child whose parents never got married, who people do not even know manners, do not know anything about anything, just because his friend in the public school or his friend in the next door neighbor's household happened to be a cute little kid and he looks innocent, and then it's fine that I can, let him go out and play with Joe or Mike or whatever it is, then I'm taking the risk that whatever manners that kid has, my kid would be exactly the same manners. If I take the bigger risk and say, Jessica or Melissa in the school that actually would do the homework with my daughter, and my daughter would stay with their house, or the parents look nice, and so on and so forth, you are taking the risk of having your child carrying the same manners and the same principles like these people do. You have no control of it. Worse, you do not know what it is. So the environment is what determines the manners of your child. You sit with your child how much time a day? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day? Wallahi, some parents never sit with their children for a week. Yet that child is sitting next to your kid in the same age and the same aspiration and the same temptations as far as whatever, next new thing that's happening in the school, and they sit next to them for hours. They raise your kids. The kid next him in the school raise him, not you. And subhanAllah, I do not need to go further as far as the environment. I can get you the best farmer, the best seeds, the best water supply, the best fertilizer, and I put that seed in a salty land or into sea water. You'll never see fruit, no matter what you do. You did everything by the book as far as great farming, except the environment that you put the seed in. And that is the biggest mistake. So make sure that the environment that you put your kid in is an environment, at least if you're not in there, at least it's a controlled environment. If you can't put them in Islamic schools, if not, then talk to them on a daily basis. And this is step number 2. What is step number 2? You have to communicate with them. You have to care for them every single day. You need, in a very friendly way, find out what are their aspirations, what they achieve, what bothered them, what's going on with their school, what are they doing next the following day, who's their best friend, what is their best friend, in a very nice way. Prophet Muhammad said, أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أُخَاطِبَ النَّاسَ عَلَى قَدْرِ عُقُولِهِمْ. I was ordered to communicate with people as much as they can comprehend at their own mental level. Prophet Muhammad, the genius of all geniuses. He was a genius in everything that he done, and no one ever achieved like him. He would be walking and he'd see one of his servants' kid playing with a small parrot. And he would talk to him and say, how you doing? وَكَيْفَ النُّغَيْرِ? How is that little parrot doing? And so on and so forth. And when Prophet Muhammad heard that this little bird died, wallahi, he sat next to that child and gave him his personal condolences because the kid was sad. People come to Prophet Muhammad with the most difficult questions. He would look at them with the foresight that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him, and he knows what kind of person he's talking to. And then the answer would be according to the level of the thinking of that person. If he's a scholar of any sort, Prophet Muhammad would explain to him and give him an answer in a scholarly way. If it's someone who's simple, then Prophet Muhammad will give him a simple answer. Like the man who came to Prophet Muhammad said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, I'm asking you about the hour." He asked him about as-sa'ah, day of judgment, when the hour happens. Prophet Muhammad learned what kind of person he is. Look at the answer. And subhanAllah, as simple as an ingenious answer it is. He said, وَمَا أَعْدَدْتَ لَهَا, and what have you prepared for us? The other man who came to Prophet Muhammad and said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, I am simple-minded, I cannot memorize things. Tell me something that I would not go astray after. Something كَيْأَعِيد." Prophet Muhammad gave him one of the most golden pieces of advice that you could possibly have. He said, "La taghdab," and he repeated it 3 times. Do not get angry, because that's the root of all evil and the shaitan taking control of you. So go down to the level of your children, communicate with them as much as they understand. Number 3, learn what your child likes. You know, some children are crazy about video games. And we'll talk about video games later. Some of them are crazy about sports. Some of them are crazy about reading. Some of them are, understand why they like it and for what reason, and try to analyze the character of your own children. See the talents that sometimes they do not know that they have, and try to work on that talent, feed that talent in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make him grow into it after they start to realize like you realize. Subhanallah, and kids, when you feed them the right information, and our deen is all about the right information, they're like computers. You put good stuff in, you'll get good stuff out. There's a term in computers, like, the first courses that you take in computers, it's known as garbage in, garbage out. What you put in and what you get out. Like one of our brothers, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him, he realized that his own son has this good memory, and subhanallah, he's learning. We quickly started to feed him with books. He developed this habit of reading books, and then when he started to sit down at the age of 5, we started to let him memorize Quran. Subhanallah, he is in the 3rd juz of Quran, recites better than some of the sheikhs that you see. And now he understands Arabic, so on his own, he starts to read hadith from Muhammad ﷺ. And on his own, started to develop his own sense of fear and taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He came to us the other day and said, "You know what, I read this hadith from Muhammad ﷺ, that when you wake up and pray for Fajr, when you are asleep, the shaitan ties 3 knots on you." It's a correct hadith. When you wake up, 1 tie is untied, 1 knot is untied, and then when you make wudu, another 1 is untied, and then when you actually pray Fajr, the 3rd one is untied, and you would be in the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all day. And he said, "You know what, I'm going to start to pray Fajr this way." And subhanallah, in his own way, every day at like 9:30 in the morning, he wakes up and prays his own Fajr with his own little sister. But subhanallah, they develop it on their own. So learn that. That is number 1. At a young age, teach them Quran. There's many schools around, and if you need any help Saturday and Sunday, they teach Quran. At least after you pass away, they can open the Quran, they can open the hadith of Prophet Muhammad and get guidance for themselves. If you don't give them that, they are lost. And the overwhelming question, the overriding question that you should have about your children is this question: if I dropped it today, can they survive on their own? And I don't mean survive, eat and drink and have an apartment, but survive mentally and as a character. Did I create them to be tough enough to go and stand up for themselves and continue being who they are? That is a question that you should teach them all the time. With that, also at a young age, like Prophet Muhammad said, "Allimu awladakum al-rimaya was-silah," martial arts. Teach them how to defend themselves in taekwondo or karate or wing chun or whatever it is that you can, so they have that self-confidence and they can defend themselves. And it's so easy and it's very attainable. Wallahi, the courses are not that expensive. And even if you give them a year of that or 2 years of that, it's fun of them, it's sport. A lot of kids like it, and actually they go and excel in it. But you have built strength, character, and self-confidence, and subhanallah, they can move on with that. The other thing also, do not, and this is very important, make it gradual. Let's say your kid mentally, Islamically, character-wise, obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wise, is at point A, and you want to get it into point C. Do not ask him to do C right now. You have to start and move to point D and to point C. Prophet Muhammad when he sent Mu'az ibn Jabal and Abu Musa al-Ash'ari into Al-Yaman to open Al-Yaman to Islam, look at what he said to them. Give the glad tidings. Speak about pleasantful things. How are we going to go about this? What do you think about that? I think this is going to be an adventure to do this. What do you think about that? Communicate with them as if they are adults. And always tell them about the good thing that we're going to have, the fun that we're going to have, and so on. So the things that they are naturally attracted to. And do not tell them, good morning, haram. How are you, haram? How many harams have you done today? And you, subhanAllah, you make the subject of Islam the subject of forbidding, the subject of blocking, the subject of something that they cannot always have. No, tell the glad tidings. And then when Prophet Muhammad told them how to teach the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at the graduality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Teach them La ilaha illallah. And when they say La ilaha illallah and believe in it, tell them that there's an obligation of 5 prayers upon them. And when they pray the 5 prayers, tell them that the rich have a right in their money to be given to the poor. That is zakat, the graduality of everything. And that is to people who are not even Muslim, who are not related to you. What about your own children? In hadith, as-Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, she gave that beautiful advice about Islam. إِنَّ اللَّهَ رَفِيقٌ يُحِبُّ الرِّفْقَ فِي الْأَمْرِ كُلِّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gentle and kind, and like gentleness and kindness in everything. Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha also narrates this beautiful hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, and we need to learn that hadith, because some people thinking that to make my son a man, I have to be so harsh and never kid with them, never hug him, never kiss him. You have to be that harsh so he can come up as a man. Man came to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, see Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam kissing one of his grandchildren. So he told them, أَتُقَبِّلُونَ الصُّبْيَانِ مَا نُقَبِّلَهُمْ. Do you kiss your children? We do not kiss him. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked at him like he's astonished. He said, وَمَا لِي إِذَا نَزَعَ اللَّهُ مِنْ قَلْبِكَ الرَّحْمَةِ. What do you think I can do for you if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already took mercy out of your heart? You have to be merciful and kind all the time. Even when you tell them that they did something wrong, even if you, subhanAllah, be forceful with them at one point, at the end of the day you have to be nice, because truly they are the love of your heart and they are the love of your life. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala sayyidina khalqi ashraf al-mursaleen, sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ittabahu bi ihsan ila yawm al-din. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. The next step. Wallahi, these things are so easy, but you have to be aware of them. The next step is you have to give your kid Islamic knowledge. You know, if you do not tell me that this is fire, and show me that when I stick my hands in the fire it would burn me, and what burns look like, and how painful it is, wallahi, I am more likely to stick my hand in fire than it is to stick my hand in water. Because guess what? I do not know. So you have to give your kids Islamic knowledge. And the more knowledgeable they get, correct knowledge that is, the more easier for them to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to act according to that knowledge. One bad way of teaching that knowledge, as we said, is the way of this is haram, this is haram, this is haram. You have to explain to your children why haram is haram and why halal is halal. You need to explain to them that halal is good for you, and because it's good for you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it allowed. And haram, because it has harm for you and it's hurtful for you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it haram. Better, when you explain that, when you tell them that something is haram, learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made something halal in the same subject. So, having sex or sexual intercourse outside the realm of marriage is, subhanAllah, one of the biggest abominations. But subhanAllah, if you're married, subhanAllah, that is one of the greatest things, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Al-Barakah al-Zuhur. The younger you get married, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you, and so on and so forth. So, Halloween, celebrating Halloween is haram because it's not a Muslim Eid, and subhanAllah, so on and so forth. It's not enough to say, oh, it's haram to celebrate Halloween, and you're correct. And leave your kid watching all other non-Muslim kids having a blast and candy and fun, and associate fun always with the other religions, with other ways of life. You have to, 2 days before, 2 days after, make a party for him, take him out, let him have more fun than these kids have. When they watch Christmas and all the Christmas joy and toys and all that, you have to shower him with gifts and fun in the days of Eid. And you need to explain to him why. When you tell him that wine is haram, and I give an example, and there's a million examples for everything haram, then you tell your children. And I was asked one time, you know what, everybody drinks wine around us, why wine is haram and so on. So when kids ask these questions, I told them, have you heard of the name of the actress? Her name is Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron. She won an Oscar, she was a model, she's very, subhanAllah, beautiful, and she's from South Africa. And a lot of kids know her because she's a movie star. I said, do you know that she killed a man when she was 15 years of age? SubhanAllah, they are taken back. How could an actress like this, a famous, kill a man, and then she's free? And a killer, this woman is a killer, it's impossible. And SubhanAllah, when you explain to them that the man that she killed, as if that is not enough, was her own father, SubhanAllah, that they fell on their knees. Why? The man drank enough liquor to lose his mind, went back home, did not recognize that she's his daughter and tried to rape her. And in South Africa, they keep guns at home. She grabbed a gun and killed her father, and it was self-defense, so they let her go. Imagine a child lives the rest of his life with the guilt that she killed her own father. And her father is guilty. But you know what? He might not be guilty of trying to rape her, believe it or not. He is guilty because he put his mind in the hands of the shaitan to do with him whatever that he wanted. And the shaitan put him to rape her. It started with drinking the liquor. Tell him how many people die every year in America, 20,000 of them, because they drive and drink. How many livers destroyed, and so on and so forth. So tell him, you see all this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbidden to protect you. And then every single thing that we say is haram, then we need to know why for ourselves. And as they say, the best way to learn yourself is to try to teach. So I'm going to talk to my child today about this, and that. Try to know. Ask scholars, ask me. I am willing to wait here an hour after Jum'ah that I come here, and if you have any questions, I will answer. I hope only for the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it is your duty. It is your fortune that you need to care about. And then follow their growth. Be gradual with them. And sometimes the best way, and it depends on the character of your child, and you know your child. Some children, you cannot tell them do something directly. They're stubborn, they have a strong character, so they will not respond right away. The best way to respond is by indirect advice to them. How? We're going together. Where would you like to go? Oh, let's go get ice cream. Alright, you make sure that you try to go to get ice cream from a store that is close by the masjid at a time that is right after prayers. You know what, let's go there, let's stop by the masjid, we'll pray, and then we go to ice cream. They will tell you, okay, you go there, and you start to pray, you teach them how to make wudu, and they pray with you, and then you go get the ice cream. Couple trips like that every single day, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it the best. And one of the greatest tools that you can do today, and will change the behavior of your kids towards you and towards prayers, is that you lead the prayers at home. How many times did you lead the prayers of Jama'ah at home? Wallahi, everyone who tried it, this was like, subhanallah, a miracle that happened. All of a sudden, they're nice, they're respectful, they're polite, and they look for it and make it short, make it subhanallah concise. Do not like start with a lecture and end with a lecture. You know, you have the computer set up for adhans, come asr, hey guys, it's time to pray, whatever it is, come down immediately and make a rule. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not only that they would like it and they would not know how to pray on their own, but they would learn how to pray Jama'ah, and they would learn how to pray Jama'ah behind you. This has an amazing effect. Another way that you can have immediate impact upon your children, and again, make it gradual, but this is an end result that you need to have. I know many parents that applied this rule, and wallahi, raising their children, and not only raising their children, but their children became the best using that. What is it? They put their kids in an Islamic environment, and they make sure it's an Islamic environment. But subhanAllah, at the same way, they put them in the worst of environments. How is that possible? They give tools, they open channels for the worst of environments to come back to his household, into their rooms, under his nose, and have the same bad effect that we all fear, while he thinks he's watching, but he's not. By that I mean the means of modern communication. They raise their kids, no cell phone, no video games, and monitoring the internet, and absolutely no TV. One of the worst things that you could possibly do, and some parents do like that, especially working moms, is that to get their kids and sit them in front of the TV. And let the TV be the mom. And TVs are designed for nothing but to sell people stuff. Unless it's a prime channel that you're paying for, all the other channels, every 3 or 4 minutes, there is like a myriad of advertising. I want you to go and open the TV on any channel, business news, whatever news, and look at the advertising. Everything, almost literally, is sold with sex. If it's a pack of gum, if it's a car, beers, subhanAllah, liquors and haram, drinks haram, everything is sold with temptation, and the whole goal is to turn your children into, subhanAllah, mindless consumerism beings. They're just passive, they sit, people tell them what they want because all their life they're sitting, being the passive side, and people are dumping things into their mind, and they're just impulsive, they want to buy this and buy that and use this and use that, and subhanAllah, into animals, and that's a perfect product for the companies out there. Do not leave your children to TVs. Do not let your children at a young age have cell phones so anyone can call them and tell them anything and text anything and gossip and waste their time. Have their entertainment come through books that you know that you're watching. And video games, subhanAllah, not only it's a waste of time, it makes you impulsive, it puts the worst kind of violent behavior. Look at the top rated video games out there. They're all about violence, about mass killing in the most, subhanAllah, primitive, mindless, senseless way possible. Why would I expose my child for that? And you know what? For that video game that you take away from them, take them to a nice trip. Take him fishing, take him outside, take him to a trip to see sight scenes, take him to, subhanAllah, a trip to Disneyland, whatever it is. Do something, but take the video game, take the cell phone, monitor their internet, and definitely do not let him be raised by TVs. And then we go back to the knowledge thing. And subhanAllah, we hear these words, Quran and fiqh. SubhanAllah, we think it's a huge amount of information load that need passion degrees in. But it's so significant. At the time of the early Muslims, so you know the caliber of men. It was told that Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik was the Khalifa of the Muslimin, had a man visited him. So the man came down and he wanted to discuss with Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik. So Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik was a wise man. He wanted to find out what kind of a man are you. So he told him, "Aqarat al-Quran?" The man said, "No, I did not read the Quran. I was occupied by other things." So he asked him, "Ata'arif al-fiqh?" Do you know the jurisprudence? Halal al-haram and the rulings of things in Islam? The man said, "No." He said, "Arawayta shay'an min ash-sha'r?" Did he tell any poetry? Poetry was the cultural sport of his time. The man said no. So Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik stopped the conversation and looked the other way. So one of the people who was sitting, pointed to Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik and said, "No, I mean, the man is there." He said, "Sah, fala yajlisu ma'ana ahad." There's no one sitting by us. Meaning that the man does not know these things, he does not exist. He thinks he exists, but he's a zero. And I'm not talking to zeros. When I say fiqh, people think, but you know fiqh, you know how to pray, you know how to fast. You know many of the halal haram, and that's a huge percentage of fiqh. There are other things that you need to learn, but you know fiqh. You read the Quran, teach that, give that knowledge to your children. The last thing, inshallah, I want to say, and I say this generally to everyone, and you can apply it immediately. You as a human being, as a father, gained experience throughout your life. You know things that you learned the hard way, from dealing with people, from doing things and experience and failing and succeeding in things. Wallahi, it is almost haram. And haram is a very heavy word. That you know these things, and they are your children, and you do not take them 5 minutes a day, sit them down and say, by the way, when you try to make a friend, choose that kind of friend. When somebody tells you this, beware, because it could be that. You know what, when you work hard and you do this, and that, eventually you will gain this. But if you do it that way, let me tell you the story that happened with me. Children like stories, and tell them true stories. This happened to me and this happened to me. Give him your experience. It's haram that you do not. Let him know not to fall into the problems or the mistakes and the traps that you yourself fell into. But then, with all these efforts, there come one final effort. And we always forget, and I always say subhanAllah, the tremendous nuclear weapon that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave every righteous Muslim. That is the power of dua. Wallahi, one man, and this is a true story, he complained to one of the scholars. He said, I am asking my children to pray and I'm doing everything with them to pray, but they're not responding. So the Shaykh told me, try to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not ask your children. He said, what do you mean? He said, it's right there in the Quran. The dua, Allahumma ja'alni muqima as-salati wa min dhurriyyati, Allahumma taqabbal dua. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make me one of the people who establish prayers and make all my siblings, all my lineage, my children, my grandchildren, be like me. And he said it sincerely in one of the sujood that he did. Wallahi, miraculously, his children started to ask him for prayers, and their all, subhanAllah, for years after that became, subhanAllah, they never missed one rak'ah. Supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your children, because they are your future. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you about him. In two correct hadith from Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَائِلٌ كُلَّ رَاعٍ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ حَافِظًا أَمْ ضَيَّعَ حَتَّى يُسْأَلُ الرَّجُلُ عَنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِهِ. This hadith, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, is a correct hadith in Bulugh al-Mura'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking everyone who's responsible for someone about what he was responsible for. And the question would be, did you keep the amana, did you protect it, or did you waste it? Tell every single man is going to be asked by his own household, his wife, his daughters, and his children. And the other hadith that is more well known than this hadith, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Hadithi, Abdullah ibn Umar, every one of you is a shepherd, is responsible for something, and every one of you would be accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever that he is responsible for.